All right. What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Live New York Sports, the Nolan Show. We talk predominantly New York sports, but not just New York sports, as you know. We branch out. Maybe I'll be talking about this Jake Paul fights and everything like that. My dogs, of course, are going nuts to the start of the show, so we'll give them 2 claps. Dogs, shut the hell up. Thank you. Took them to the park, but they still don't give a shit. They will be going nuts probably for the whole show, but I got a good lineup today. We're going to be talking New York Giants, New York Jets, maybe segue into the Yankees and the Mets after they're done playing. The disappointing teams that they are. But now we can look forward to football season because it's back. Preseason has been upon us. Aaron Rodgers playing in the final preseason game. It just came out. So we'll get to see him live in action in a real, granted, it's not a regular season game, but it's still pretty big. Still pretty big deal that we'll get to see this guy in a Jets uniform throwing the ball at MetLife Stadium. So be excited for that against the Giants too. And we're going to be talking right off the bat about the New York Giants, the New York Football Giants, and Daniel Jones specifically to start. Can this guy, Marcelo Zuna just hit a nice home run for the Atlanta Braves. Now they're up 3-0. The Mets suck. Anybody that thinks they're going to make the wild card is out of their mind, but we'll talk about that later. The New York Giants and Daniel Jones, what can they do in 2023? How can they follow up a magnificent 2022? Let's be real, what they did in the first round of the playoffs, it showed fans and people around the world that the Giants ain't that bad. I mean, look at them. Daniel Jones, now that he's got Jalen Hyatt, Darren Waller joining them. Oh, my God. Give me a break real quick. Dogs are fun, but they are also pretty annoying. So here's the deal. Well, I'm a little blurry right now, so I'll try to fix that. Who cares? But anyways, it's a talk show, so we'll just talk. Daniel Jones and the New York Giants, what they did in the first round of the playoffs against the Minnesota Vikings, a pretty good football team. Let's be real, guys. Of course, my mic was off, but what I was saying is dogs are annoying, one. Two, Daniel Jones and the New York Giants, what they did against the Minnesota Vikings in the first round of the playoffs in 2022, I think it showed fans around the world that they can compete. I mean, look at their team, who they got in free agency and Darren Waller. They traded for Darren Waller, but they also picked up on the defensive side of the ball. They picked up Bobby Okereke, who I've been loving all offseason. I'm hyped to see him with the defense that they already have. Kayvon Thibodeau, what can we see out of him from the sophomore season? Azeez Ojulari already established himself in his first 2 seasons as one of the premier edge rushers in the league when he's healthy. But that's the key for the defense. They have to stay healthy. And Deonte Banks, now hopefully they got a cornerback 1 in him. And also another guy, Trey Banks, who's been making noise in the preseason and all summer long in camp. So Trey Banks and Deonte Banks with the other guys that they brought in, like Okereke. And then you already got, like I said, Thibodeau and Ojulari, 2 guys who could be elite. And then Leonard Williams and then Dexter Lawrence, who we all know, when they're healthy, they're one of the best in the league. So that defense might be there, but the offense is the question mark right now. That it always has been the question mark, is that offense. The offensive line, obviously, all the talk about the Giants' offensive line is always a thing. But now Daniel Jones has a contract, a big boy contract, and that means there are going to be big boy expectations. Granted, wide receiver 1, does he have one? Who knows? Isaiah Hodgson, maybe he can turn into one. Who knows? Maybe Jalen Hyatt can turn into one. Who knows? We'll be talking about that later. But he does have Darren Waller. And Darren Waller
is a top 5 to top 8 tight end, I'd say, when healthy. So we'll see what he can do. And Saquon Barkley is a top 3 running back. I don't care what anybody says. Look at the scrimmage yards last year that Saquon Barkley put up. He's top 3 in football. So he's a top 3 running back in my opinion. So Daniel Jones does have weapons. He does have weapons. And he has that big boy contract, like I said. Apparently, he's came into camp 10 pounds heavier in muscle. So he's ready to go. He is ready to go. Now, is this guy going to throw for 5,000 yards and 30 touchdowns? No. Maybe, but no. It's not going to happen. But I do expect the Giants to return to the playoffs. And they already advanced to the second round. So now the goal should be to advance to the third round. So who knows? Everybody, Sal Licata on the radio today was talking about the Giants as Super Bowl contenders. He's out of his mind. Maybe, though. I mean, let's be real. Anything can happen when you make the playoffs. And Danny Jones, what he did great last year was not turn the ball over and make good decisions. So now that we know he can do that, he just needs to take that next step. And now that he has that big boy contract, we should expect that. And now that he has Hyatt, Hodgkinson, Waller, he also has, why am I blanking on the other guy? Wan'Dale Robinson coming back. So we'll see what he can do. Now, and I don't know why nobody talks about it, but Daniel Jones is one of the most mobile quarterbacks in football. One of the most mobile quarterbacks in football. He's up there, not like Lamar Jackson level, obviously, but he's up there with Pat Mahomes mobility-wise. Now, he doesn't have the arm. He doesn't have everything else that Pat Mahomes has, but legs, he does. Danny Jones is an athlete. He's an athlete. And he is one of the main reasons that the Giants got 9 wins, won the first round of that playoff game against. He was the main reason they won that first round playoff game against the Minnesota Vikings. He balled out. Can this guy win an MVP? We will see. Now, will he do it this year? I don't know. But he has, and I'm going to sound crazy for saying this, but I think Daniel Jones has an it factor. I think he could be an it factor. He's got the athleticism. He's got the mindset now. He's got stability with Brian Daboll. He's got the big boy contract. He has Saquon Barkley, Isaiah Hodgson, Darren Waller, Jalen Hyatt, Wan'Dale Robinson coming back. An improved offensive line. He's got Andrew Thomas protecting him. One of the best offensive linemen in football. So now we will see what Daniel Jones is made of. Because it's not just, all right, the weapons are going to help Danny Jones. It's no. How can Danny Jones help the weapons? He's the leader of this football team. He acts like the leader. He plays like the leader. And he is the leader. So what should we expect from Daniel Jones? What are some numbers? Now, if I'm not a Giants fan, but I do write for the G-Men HQ on Fansided. Shout out those guys. Make sure you check out G-Men HQ. Shout out Braulio, my editor, too. But when I look at Daniel Jones and the Giants, I think that they could be right up there with the Dallas Cowboys and the Philadelphia Eagles in the NFC East. Why not? Why not? I mean, I'm not trying to brag, but I did say that the Giants would go to the playoffs at the start of last season. I was talking about it in the preseason, too. Go check G-Men HQ, my author page. I wrote all about it. The Giants actually have a decent team. And now they have a pretty good team. So I think they're going to return to the playoffs. I think that they could fight for the division title, too. I really do think that this Giants team can compete for a division title, even with that stacked Philadelphia Eagles roster and the Dallas Cowboys, who are stacked too. So I'm excited to see the Giants in 2023. I'm excited to see what Daniel Jones can do. How can he repeat a pretty good year last year? He had 4,000 plus yards rushing and passing combined. 30 plus touchdowns rushing and passing combined, I believe. So And now, like I said, too, the stability with Brian Daboll coming back, retaining the offensive coordinator. I think Danny Jones can throw probably 25 plus touchdowns, 25 to 28 he'll have. And then I'd say he's going to scratch over 4,000 yards, probably like 4,000 to 4,100. Rushing, I think he's going to give you 500 to 700. I mean, he's, like I said, one of the best mobile quarterbacks in the league. He's underrated in terms of that. So now let's talk about his weapons. And his main weapon, since he's been in the league, doesn't have a really nice contract, but he should get a contract, and they should lock him up long term because he is one of the best running backs in football. He's a receiving back. He's a power back. He's a third down back. He's a blocking back. He's everything. Just like Daniel, if you take away Daniel Jones from last season's team, they don't go to the playoffs. If you take away Barkley from that team, they don't even win 5 games. They don't. Barkley is just as important to the Giants as Daniel Jones. So Saquon Barkley should be locked up long term. And he's not even 30. So you see it right there, over 1,300 rushing yards last year. He's one of the best running backs in football, and I expect him to still be one of the best running backs in football. He barely had any injuries last year. He had some in the middle of the season he was dealing with, but he played through it. And in the playoffs, he showed up. And Barkley, Jones is a great quarterback, but Barkley is different because Barkley, he is an X factor. He is a game changer. He's a guy you could hand the ball off to at the 20-yard line, and he could break out an 80-yard run at any given moment. He's that good. He's that type of player. He is one of those. He is him. Everybody talks about who's him. Saquon Barkley is him. Like we talk about Derrick Henry, Dalvin Cook, Breece Hall. We talk about Jonathan Taylor. He wants his contract. We talk about Alvin Kamara, Nick Chubb, all these great running backs. But Saquon Barkley is a top 3 running back, no doubt. No doubt about it. He's all over the field. And he's a leader. He wants to be here. Not a lot of people like to be in New York. We always say that. Aaron Rodgers came to the Jets. Yeah, now people want to be in New York. But Saquon Barkley, since he was drafted here, he has worn that uniform with pride. It hurt him when he could not get that contract situation situated. He wants to be here. He's one of the best running backs in football, one of the best players in football. One of the most valuable players in football is Saquon Barkley. Now, a running back will never win the MVP, but Barkley, quite frankly, is one of the most valuable players on the Giants. He should be locked up long term, but we're not here to talk about the contract. We're here to talk about what he's going to do on the field this season. And I think Saquon, you can expect a year just like last year. He's not going to stop. He's not going to slow down. He's got Eric Gray joining him now, too. Eric Gray, one of the most elusive rookies in that running back class from this year. So hopefully he's got a little bit of a cushion to take a break every now and then. Hopefully, like, the workload can be taken off a little bit because now that the Giants know that they can make the playoffs, you want Saquon the whole year. Because last year they did depend on Saquon Barkley a whole lot. Sometimes too much. And he is a guy who I'm not going to say he's injury prone, but you want to be careful with him. You do. He's one of the best running backs in football, and he does have an injury history. So you do want to be careful with him. So I'm hoping that the Giants can take the workload a little bit off of him. Again, I think he establishes himself this year, though, as one of the best, if not the best, running back in football. He's that good. When he came into the league, he had over 1,600 scrimmage yards. 1,600 scrimmage yards. Over 1,600 scrimmage yards. He is elite, one of the premier running backs in this league. And I expect the same thing in 2024. So what else do we expect from the other Giants players? Let's talk about the defense before we do get into the rookies. The defense, I'm excited for it. I think it's one of the more underrated defenses in football. They had a pretty good year last year. And I think with Wink Martindale, now that he has another season with this team, Kayvon Thibodeau, another season, what can he do? Azeez Ojulari, you have Bobby Okereke joining them now. Leonard Williams. The big man, Dexter Lawrence just got paid. Deonte Banks and hopefully Trey Banks can establish themselves as a really good cornerback duo as the season prolongs. So we'll see what this defense is made of, but I think this defense has a top 10 potential. Top 5 in the NFC, maybe. But the problem last year, it was a mix of everything. They were good at everything, not really great at one thing. But hopefully this Giants defense can be great. Because when you look at the makeup of the defense, like I said, they got Dexter Lawrence, who's one of the premier defensive linemen in football. You have Kayvon Thibodeau, a top 5 draft pick. They're expecting big things in year 2. He himself is expecting big things. Azeez Ojulari, if he stays healthy, he's one of the best edge rushers in football. And then you also have Leonard Williams. Health is always a question with him, but if he's healthy, same thing. One of the best pass rushers in football. So you look at the defensive line, it is pretty stacked. If those 4 defensive linemen can stay healthy all year long, Thibodeau, Lawrence, Leonard Williams, and Azeez Ojulari, if they stay healthy, this defense can be top 5. Now that they have Deonte Banks and Trey Hawkins, they got potential. Bobby Okereke, a linebacker. That linebacker has been killing the Giants for so long. Okereke is a proven linebacker. A proven linebacker coming here. Wink Martindale has players to work with. If you're a Giants fan, you should be excited. You really should be excited about 2023 because I think it's going to be even better than 2022. I think they go past the second round. I think they fight for that division. And I think it's because of these guys up front. Those 4 guys up front on the line. Ojulari, Thibodeau, Lawrence, and Williams. Those 4 guys, if they stay healthy, then they have one of the best defensive lines in football. But the big question is that secondary. They've had safeties floating in and out. Julian Love is gone. But Xavier McKinney, just like Dexter Lawrence, he's an X factor on that defense. And the health is not a question with him. It was a weird offseason, weird bye week injury with him. He fell off like his quad or something. So with McKinney, Ojulari, Thibodeau, Lawrence, Williams, Okereke, Deonte Banks, and Trey Hawkins, I think this Giants defense could really be a top 5 defense. Wink Martindale has a lot to work with here. So we'll see what this defense is made of. I think they could be top 5. I really do. And you look at the offense, it's They got Barkley. Daniel Jones got that big boy deal, so he's got expectations now. But if the Giants go back into the playoffs in 2023, I think it's because of this defense, and more specifically, I think it's the 4 big boys up front. So I expect big seasons from all 4 of those guys. Put the health aside, those guys could all be elite. Let's talk about the rookies. The Giants rookie class. Pretty exciting, huh? You got Jalen Hyatt, a wide receiver now. You got Eric Gray, a running back to back up Saquon Barkley potentially. Oh, and Deonte Banks in the first round. that big ticket cornerback. A lot of expectations for him. He had a little bit of a rough training camp, but it's all right. He looked pretty good in summer. In the preseason. He's looking pretty good in the preseason so far. He had a couple good pass breakups so far, especially against Carolina. So I'm looking at Deonte Banks, and I'm thinking he's got cornerback 1 potential. He really does. So I don't think Giants fans should be worried any bit about Deonte Banks. And in terms of Trey Hawkins, I mean, you got nothing to lose with him. A 5th-round draft pick coming out of nowhere, bursting onto the scene, establishing himself as potentially the cornerback 2. The expectations are low, but the reward could be high. And you love low expectations, high reward. Low risk, high reward. So Trey Hawkins, who knows what we'll see out of him in the rookie season, but he has been turning heads, and fans are excited. The coaching staff loves him. Wink Martindale loves him. Him and Deonte Banks are building a great repertoire. They have a great relationship. So if they found 2 lockdown corners in this year's draft, whew. I mean, that secondary has always been the question mark, and now if you can have Xavier McKinney, Deonte Banks, and Trey Hawkins being factors, that's good. That's really good. Like I said, this defense is what I'm looking at this year. The offense, I know what they can do. I know that they shouldn't have crazy expectations because the wide receiver room isn't uber talented. I mean, they do have Darren Waller and Saquon Barkley, but outside of those 2 guys, what does Daniel Jones really have to work with? We all talk about Isaiah Hodgins and Jalen Hyatt, but that's really built out of hope. Same thing with Wan'Dale Robinson. We're hoping. Just like we're hoping that Deonte Banks can turn out and Trey Hawkins can translate it into the regular season. So we'll see. I'm excited for Trey Hawkins just as much as I am Deonte Banks. I think Hawkins has potential. In terms of Deonte Banks, I mean, like I said before, he's got cornerback 1 potential. And then you flip it to the offensive side of the ball, Jalen Hyatt, catching those touchdown passes in the preseason so far, he's looking pretty good. Building a good repertoire with Daniel Jones. You can't not be excited for it. You can't not be. I mean, he's a 3rd-round draft pick. When he was with Tennessee last season, he put up big-time numbers. He was top 3. He was a top 3 wide receiver in college last year. He was. Numbers-wise, he was a top 3 wide receiver. He fell right into their hands in that 3rd round. So you got to be excited for Jalen Hyatt. You got to be excited. Hopefully this preseason can translate to the regular season, just like Trey Hawkins can translate his play in the summer over to the regular season. I expect maybe 600, 700 yards, maybe 5 to 7 touchdown passes. He's going to be a good red zone threat for sure. But I'm excited to see what Jalen Hyatt can do in the regular season. Hopefully Daniel Jones has a guy that he can look at in Jalen Hyatt and say, I can just throw you the ball. Because he's never had that guy. Maybe it's Darren Waller, though. Maybe it is. But this rookie class, if there's 4 guys I'm looking at, 1, Tommy DeVito. Okay. Backup quarterback? Maybe. QB2. You need one. I'm not saying Jones is going to get hurt, but maybe he does. And maybe DeVito can slide in and do some things, do some damage there. But let's flip. I'm going to take a quick break, and then I'm going to talk some New York Jets. So let's take a break on the Giants and take a break myself. Enjoyed this video about the Mets potentially getting Shohei Ohtani in the offseason. And, even after Ohtani, what do you think? What do you think about Steve Cohen as a whole? Like, you think this guy, what do you think he did for this Mets franchise so far?
Yeah, I think starting with the first half of the question, Ohtani's certainly on the table. The biggest barrier in the Mets' way from them landing him isn't dollars, but it really is just preference. If Ohtani still has the same preference that he had entering the MLB, which is West Coast, then the likelihood of him landing with the Mets isn't as strong as, say, the Dodgers, who, while the Dodgers might not be able to
Daniel
put up
fucking Vogelback,
highest
baby.
dollar
3-2, baby.
for
These Mets
Ohtani
ain't
the
dead
way the
yet. They
Mets
ain't dead
would,
yet.
it wouldn't be shocking
Ain't
if
alive.
Ohtani, say, took
But they
a
ain't dead.
slight pay
They're just right in
cut from
between.
the Dodgers versus what the Mets offer would be. They weren't drastically different to stay in LA, that area, to be with the Dodgers and be on the championship winning type organization still. So that is the biggest hurdle in landing him. But rest assured, we've all known by now that when Cohen has his eyes set on someone, he's going to do everything physically and humanly possible to acquire them. And, I don't expect a Carlos Correa, broken ankle type situation 2.0 here with Ohtani. So rest assured, if the interest is there, which we all know it is, the Mets will at minimum do their due diligence and give a valiant effort in landing him. And should they not, especially, then you look at the Manny Machado. I think either way, the Mets are in a strong position to land one of the top free agents next year. It's just a matter of if it's going to be the best player in baseball or is it going to be one of the best third basemen in the game. So, yeah, we'll discuss that more as we get closer to the trade deadline, depending on where the Angels are at and things of that nature. But, yeah, they will certainly be involved. And to answer the second part, yeah, Cohen, everything that I say, by now, right? He's just done an amazing job as Mets owner over the past couple of years. I had the privilege of meeting him a couple months ago, back in early January at a Mets event, and he was just, exactly what you would expect him to be. Just the fact that he goes so out of his way constantly to interact with fans, people, media, just really showing that the only difference between you and I and Cohen is the dollars on our net worth. Aside from that, the same interest level is there when it comes to being a diehard true Mets fan. That is what was the focal point in him buying the team in the first place. It wasn't because of this being a superior investment long term. No, it's because he wants to bring championships to Queens as a desperate fan, and I don't blame him. I would do the exact same thing if I had the money to back it and if I were in his shoes. So, everything he's done from top down, not only in the organization with the amount of funding for the roster, which is right around double more that he's spent on guaranteed contracts alone since he became an owner, which is around $1.4 billion than the next closest owner in baseball over the past couple of years, which is Steinbrenner of the Yankees, around $880 million. Aside from investing a record amount of dollars over that period of time with on-field product, it's off the field. It's with the coaching staff with Showalter.
Daniel Vogelback. Daniel Vogelback, 3-2. The Mets still alive in this game. They ain't dead yet. Let's see what they can do against the Braves. Let's talk some Jets football, though. More specifically, let's talk about Aaron Rodgers. All right? Let's talk about him. Not Aaron Rodgers, Garrett Wilson. I do want to talk about Aaron Rodgers. Why is Garrett Wilson on my screen? So, they were 7-10 last year, fourth in the AFC East last year, but they did have a top 5 defense, and they were 7-4 at one point. They were 6-2 at one point. I think this Jets team is going to win the AFC East. Everybody is talking, they got the Buffalo Bills in the AFC East. They got what have the Buffalo Bills just done? What have they done to deserve this respect that they're just one of the best teams in football? Year in and year out, they fall short in the AFC. They didn't even make the AFC chip this year. They fall short consistently in the playoffs. They're a great regular season team, don't get me wrong. And Aaron Rodgers has fallen short in the playoffs numerous times. I get it. But guess what? Aaron Rodgers has never had receivers like a receiving room with Garrett Wilson, Allen Lazard, Randall Cobb, McCole Hardman, Corey Davis. He hasn't had Jordan Conklin and CJ Uzmoa. He hasn't had Dalvin Cook and Breece Hall at his side. And then in the other room, he got Bam Knight, Michael Carter, all over. He has weapons all over. Aaron Rodgers has never had the weapons that he has right now with the New York Jets, and I don't want to hear that I'm wrong or I'm stupid or crazy. Aaron Rodgers has the best weapons he has ever had. The Jets have done what he has always wanted the Green Bay Packers to do: surround him with talented weapons. Every year with the Packers is, well, they got Aaron Rodgers, so they're going to be a Super Bowl contender. Well, they got Aaron Rodgers, so they're going to be a Super Bowl contender. But now it's, they got Aaron Rodgers, but they got Garrett Wilson, they got Alan Lazard, they got McCole Hardman, they got Corey Davis, they got Randall Cobb, they got Breece Hall, they got Dalvin Cook, they got Bam Knight, they got Michael Carter, they got Tyler Conklin, they got CJ Uzomah, and they have a top 5 defense already. They have Sauce Gardner. They have DJ Reed, arguably one of the best cornerback duos in football. They have CJ Mosley, one of the best linebackers in football. Quentin Williams. I mean, he wants to get 5 sacks in one game. He got 10 sacks in one game, maybe 11 according to Aaron Rodgers. I mean, you have Carl Lawson. Dude, the Jets are loaded. They're loaded. They have Dalvin Cook and Breece Hall. Like, if they don't win the Super Bowl, if they don't make the Super Bowl, I'm going to be very upset. Everybody is saying, well, they're just going to Jets it maybe, and it's Aaron Rodgers, so we really shouldn't. No. Say it how it is. On paper, I know I hate saying on paper, but on paper, the Jets have the best roster in football. And anybody who says Aaron Rodgers is washed is stupid. The guy has won the MVP 2 out of the last 3 years. He was better than 20 other quarterbacks with a broken thumb last year on his throwing hand. Aaron Rodgers is still an MVP caliber quarterback. He still is. And he has the offensive rookie of the year right by his side, who had 1,100 plus yards in his rookie year, with Zach Wilson, Joe Flacco, and Mike White throwing him the ball. So now that Garrett Wilson has a proven MVP caliber quarterback throwing him the ball, well, I think that we can expect big things from Garrett Wilson in year 2. Big things. I think he's going to be right up there with Jamar Chase. I think he's going to be right up there with Justin Jefferson. I think he's going to be right up there with A.J. Brown. He is going to be one of the best wide receivers in football in 2023, no doubt about it. No doubt about it. He had over 1,100 yards with Joe Flacco, Mike White, and Zach Wilson throwing him the ball. I say it over and over and over, time and time again. Garrett Wilson is a freaking beast. He is a beast. And now that he has Aaron Rodgers, you can expect big things out of this guy in his second season. So, I mean, I'm not going to spend too much time on him, but some numbers that I do expect from Garrett Wilson this year, I think 13 to 1,400 plus yards. I think 10 plus touchdowns. So let's see what Garrett Wilson is made of with Aaron Rodgers now throwing him the ball. Is Zach Wilson? Now that let's stick with the offense. Is Zach Wilson a reliable backup quarterback for this Jets football team? Is he? 15 touchdowns, 18 interceptions in 2 seasons in the NFL so far. We all know last year everything hit the fan right after that Patriots game. But at the end of the day, when you look at this guy in the field, the plays that he makes, they are eye-opening. The talent is for sure there. The leadership, it can develop. And him sitting behind Aaron Rodgers, what I've seen in Hard Knocks so far out of Zach Wilson, how he's been building a repertoire, how he's been think about a second overall pick taking a back seat. Not many players do that. So, and listen, the comments last year, Zach Wilson hated that reporter. Hated that reporter. So that also had something to do with it. Now, I'm not excusing him for those comments, but he did hate that reporter. So with Zach Wilson, like I said, the leadership can develop. The talent is there. The consistency needs to develop too. But now that he's sitting behind Aaron Rodgers, getting to watch someone do it, not just on the field, but off the field, the things that he is, the way that Aaron Rodgers acts outside the locker room and in the locker room. Zach Wilson is definitely taking notes. He has to be taking notes. Rodgers has taken him under his wing, coaching him up. And when Wilson does step on the field, whether it's this season or when Rodgers retires, I think we can expect a new Zach Wilson. You saw the release time has improved drastically so far. Granted, it's preseason, but it is so much better than last year. Last year was over a 2.5. Right now it's at like a 2.2. So Zach Wilson, consistency is the thing. The leadership is the thing. But the talent is there. And I'm excited to see Zach when he does step on the field. But I hope I don't see him step on the field this year because I hope Aaron Rodgers dominates all year long. But this Jets defense, I'm going to wrap up the show with the Jets defense. I'm going to talk Yankees and Mets sometime later this week. I'm going to be back this week, going 2 weeks, two times a week, hopefully. Been pretty busy. But the Jets defense last year was a top 5 in yards allowed and points allowed. I think you can expect the same thing. Like I said, you got Carl Lawson. You got one of the best defensive linemen in football in Quentin Williams. John Franklin Myers, Jermaine Johnson, too, that they just drafted last year. You got to be excited. C.J. Mosley, one of the best leaders in football, one of the best linebackers in football. Sauce Gardner, one of the best cornerbacks, if not the best cornerback in all of football. He is that good. You got DJ Reed, Adrian Amos. This Jets defense is loaded. So what do I expect? I expect the same thing. And I expect even better now that they are hopefully going to be on the field a lot less now that they have a quarterback in Aaron Rodgers throwing the ball on the other side. So I think this Jets defense can be even better than it was last year. And that's just what happens when you get a better offense. So the Jets, overall, what do I expect? I think they're going to be AFC champs. I think they're going to have 12 to 13 to 14 wins. 12 to 14 wins. I think a major turnaround is upon us in Forum Park, more specifically, MetLife Stadium. Because the Giants, they will return to the playoffs, and the Jets, they are ending that playoff drought, and they are for sure Super Bowl contenders. That's all I got for you guys tonight. Hoping that the Mets can pull off a comeback. They are down 3-2 in the top of the 7th. Francisco Alvarez just struck out, so there's now 1 out. In the top of the 7th, they are down 3-2 against the Atlanta Braves. They are making a tease right now. Mets fans are talking about a potential push for the wild card. I don't think it's going to happen, but who knows? Who knows with the Mets? And in terms of the Yankees, I mean, Yankees fans don't even want them to make the playoffs, so Brian Cashman and Aaron Boone go. But we'll talk about that another time. Thank you guys for tuning in. If you tuned in, if you didn't, well, then you probably won't hear this message. But if you did tune in, make sure you tell your friends that this show is back on track. All right. I'll see you guys later. I'm tuning off. Let's go Mets. And make sure you watch that episode of Hard Knocks tonight, even if you're a Giants fan. It is pretty interesting this year. All right, that's all I got for you guys tonight.